Hey there, and welcome to part 2 of our special exclusive spiffy interview with the one and only Isaiah Cartwright. I'm XollFury.
And I'm Isaiah Cartwright.
A little bit of a delay there, but who cares? So yeah, if you missed part 1, you can click the annotation on your screen to take you to that. We heard a whole lot about how balancing works and how they are applying their lessons they learned from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2. And also we heard a good deal about the combat system and how they came up with that whole deal there. All right, and looks like now we're going to get into a little bit of how PvP works. Not exactly how it works, but more. I don't know. I'll just ask the question I have written down. Oh man. All right. Okay, so basically the main question I have is dodging and mobility is extremely important within PvE. I mean, I saw a video of a guy, it might have been a demo of a guy, just a ranger, fighting, what are they called? Oaken something or another? Big tree.
Oakhearts, yeah.
Yeah, oak hearts. That's it. I was on the right track there. Anyways, I saw him fighting one of those guys and by himself, and he was dodging all of the attacks, and then he didn't dodge one and got one shot, and I thought that was fantastic. But basically, dodging and the mobility in PvE is extremely important. But will it be as important in PvP?
So, I mean, I guess here's the big power of dodging, and especially the way it's set up now. It's kind of an extra resource that we give you, and you can kind of use it in a lot of different ways. It can be a little bit of extra movement while it's in combat, so you can break the distance to be at range. You can use it to dodge attacks. You can use it to close the distance between, if you're a melee guy. And so it has a lot of versatility to be both offensive and defensive, depending on how you want to use it. And, in PvE, we usually like to set it up a lot more as there's a lot of creatures that have, bigger attacks, and you like to dodge those things. In PvE, players that really want to push themselves and go fight bigger and badder things, they'll tend to want to dodge. Like the person you're probably watching, he was fighting things that if he missed the dodge or if he didn't get things, he was going to die. And that's something that we want to encourage people to kind of find the difficulty that they want to find, and then reward them for the difficulty that they want to challenge themselves at. And in PvP, that type of behavior is even more. The dodging is a big deal. Our combat, we have everyone's got their heal, and so you can kind of deal with pressure damage. You can, if you're taking a little bit of damage, you just back away from combat. You're able to heal yourself up. You can go into a defensive mode, whether it be weapon swapping into a more defensive set, whether it be an Ellie going into Earth Attunement, or throwing up a defensive utility, and then healing up and getting out. But if you see someone throwing a kind of set of combination of skills that has a very spike, right? You want to use your dodge. If you see multiple people throwing a spike at you, you can dodge out of it. And that dodge basically completely will, nullify their spike. And so it becomes a real interesting dynamic of working around that. And on top of that, people can then also cripple you or frozen you or immobilize you, and then you're not allowed to dodge. And so there's kind of this interesting dynamic to the dodging mechanic. And, a lot of the builds around PvP and a lot of the fight around PvP is, intelligently using dodge and, using it to break that distance to just get out of range, or as a warrior, closing the distance so that you can be up close and get that stun, or, different things like that. And so I think dodging is a really big part of our game, and it's something that we plan for it to be both big in PvE and PvP for kind of different reasons. We want people to be using a set of careful timing and for a lot of damage at one point, and being able to kind of dodge in and out of that in PvP, and we want it to be able to avoid big hits in PvE.
Yeah, and I also think dodging, the dodge mechanic in PvP really encourages combat awareness, because there's a lot of games where you can just fight and just target this guy and not really care what anyone else is doing. But with the ability to dodge, and with the fact that, while you have your own heal, and everyone is pretty survivable or pretty durable or something like that, to a degree, if a couple people get a good spike on you, you're screwed. And I think the ability to just have that be completely nullified really encourages the wanting to pay attention to what other people are doing. So
Yeah, one of the things that we find that's really fun about our system is we get to be a little bit more like we get to have a little bit more deadly of a system. In PvP and in PvE, because of the down mechanic, because of the healing, because of the dodging and things like that, we get to kind of push the deadliness of our entire system. And in other games, it's if something was to come along and like that Oakart fight you were saying, and if you were to actually get hit by die, that wouldn't be the most fun fight. But in our system, even if that Oakart comes along and one hits you and you die because you're fighting something really powerful, that guy can still like fight a little bit while he's down, vengeance, stand up, run over, res his buddy then can get up and fight the guy for a little bit. There's so much play to fighting something that's really powerful. And that's kind of the point of the system, is that you can really push the bounds of what you can fight and the deadliness of it, and how fun that there is. And it's an interesting balance on our end, because we got to really make sure that combat doesn't go on for a really long time. But it's been really fun and been something that we've been enjoying, kind of finding the edges of durabilityness and deadliness.
yeah, cool. All right, so I guess the next question is, last I heard about the attributes and the ability to replace them, like completely reset it. Last I heard, you guys had not come to a conclusion on that. Have you? And can you talk about that conclusion?
Yeah, I can talk about it a tiny bit.
Okay.
Mainly, uh, what we had in a lot of the demos was you'd level up, you'd get some attributes, and you'd put some points into it. And we found that the decisions that you were making here were not super interesting. And so, as always, we were looking at how to make the stuff more interesting. And, we were also looking at our trait system. And so, I think we've been kind of looking at how we can work in and change up the whole system. And I think you'll see, as we unveil that stuff, some of the new changes that we've done there to try to make that whole system a little bit more interesting, and some of the decisions that you make in that whole thing more appealing. And so that's kind of what we've been working on the traits, is really try to push the decisions that you make, and the overall choices and the builds and the depth there as much as we can.
All right.
And that's kind of our goal.
All right. Well, I had kind of an expansion of that. Setting aside the ability to or to not, reset your attribute points in PvE, setting that aside, would you consider letting people do that freely in competitive PvP? Because I could
Okay.
really see that would help with the competitive side. Like if they're, stacking a bunch of, high damage people, you might want to, respec into a little bit of a more tanky build for some people. I could see that adding
So
a lot to
there's,
the dynamics.
I think there's kind of multiple levels here. There's doing it inside a match. I think you would not want people to be
Right.
able to
I would agree.
do, because that takes away from builds, right? You want to really force people, you want to lock people down so that they're forced to make a build, and then it's kind of your build versus my build, and there's some interesting dynamics. But I do think um, you don't want people to have to go through a lot of trouble in order to reset their build in PvP, because PvP has got a lot about, you know, okay, well, hey guys, let's run this build. Okay, let's run this build, or let's run this build, and that kind of choices requires for a lot of rapid changing. And so we totally recognize that, and it's something that we keep in mind in our design. The exact implementation of that, we're still working on and playing around with that. But it is something that we took into account. In Guild Wars 1, we shipped the game with a attributes that respec point that you had to go, and we realized quickly that wasn't okay, and we ripped it out. And so, it is constantly something that we brought up as we develop Guild Wars 2. It's like, let's make sure we don't do that again. And so, we're really aware of that. But it's very likely that we'll have kind of different systems for PvP and PvE as we do that kind of respecking, because we want you to have a sense of developing your character in PvE and doing some things. But they'll always be respecking in the game. They'll always be allowing you to change your character. We don't ever want someone to be locked into a choice that they can't go. And so it's just finding the careful balance of how often and what you got to do there.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds good. I guess we can go ahead and move into our next topic, which is a little bit about the guild system. And I realize you haven't, finalized everything.
Sure.
But firstly, I guess, what was your say in the decision making of? Well, first I'll just go over the guild system as I understand it currently, just for people who are listening who don't know it currently. Basically,
Sure.
what ArenaNet has been trying to do, and what they are wanting to do, is not confine the player to having to be in one guild and one guild only. So they're allowing people to be a part of a lot of different guilds. And is there any kind of a cap on that, or have you come to that conclusion yet?
So there's kind of I don't know if there's a physical cap. There might be. I'm not 100% sure there. I think we're still playing around with that things. But what we found is in mini games, guilds are limited based on character. And so many people are in many different guilds already. And then in other games, people are all in one guild. And we found as guilds are more a social structure, right? It's something that you are in as a organization that you care about and that you participate in. And it's as we look at a lot of social environments, that guilds are kind of this social entity. And so we really want to kind of explore that group. And so I think you even look at Guild Wars 1, where we limited the entire guilds by accounts, and you look at the number of people who bounced around to different guilds all the time, and there was a lot of people who did that, and there was a lot of people who stayed in one guild forever, and it's okay too. And so it's kind of looking at that philosophy and saying, it's okay for you to be in a guild, and that's your guild, and you love that guild forever, and it's okay to say, yeah, I got 3 or 4 guilds that I play with, and I'm good friends with these guys, and I like to hang out with them. But this is the main guild that I hang out with. But I like to hang out with my other friends in these ones, and kind of explore that kind of social philosophy with those things. And I think it's always up to a guild to kind of manage that own type of philosophy, right? Like a guild can say, hey, you're limited to if you're going to be in our guild, you got to be in our guild. Guilds have always had their ability to manage their own rules and their own stipulations. Like, even the guild that you're in, there's a lot of, you're a hardcore PvP guild. There's, a lot of, requirements to being in that guild. And so I think the point of a guild, in my point, is to have a group of people that have a commonality of something, right? And it's people that are coming together and organizing. And I don't think that, you look at every group or organization and social things all over the place. It doesn't entirely mean that they have to be limited to one thing, or in one sense. And so we're kind of exploring, seeing how it goes, seeing how that works.
All right. Well, yeah, you actually kind of really made me think through my kind of second question about that, and you may have just answered it. My concern with the guild system was that if you have somebody who's a part of like 8 different guilds and then wants to come and join, my guild that's just a X, PvE guild, and wants to go and do the high end game, whatever that is, and you're like, wait, you're a part of 8 other guilds. How can I know that you will stay loyal to our guild? And I guess the main thing that I came to was, how can a guild have a vested interest in a member when that member doesn't have a vested interest in the guild? But you said that you talked about the guild regulating that, and the guild can just say, no, I'm not going to allow you in our guild unless you know
I mean,
are only going to be in our guild. But had you thought
when
about that?
yeah, I mean, we totally have. Like when
Okay.
it comes down to what a guild represents and what a thing like a a person joining a guild is there's no locked in. You're never locked into anything, right? It's not like someone can't leave at any time.
Right.
People vote with their time, right? People vote with their energy. People vote with the things that they care about doing. Like, most guilds, I've been in a guild for 10+ years now, and I on and off do different things with them at different times, and it's like uh, the amount of things that I do and the participation. I've been in do different things with that guild depending on what different games I play with them, and whatever like energy and time I put into the guild is really how I'm showing that I'm a member of that guild,
Right.
right? And like whether or not that I go into another game and I play something else, or like I go play, some game with my kids and I make in another guild, it's not like that matters as much as it matters that they care about the time and energy that I put into it. And that's really how you got a good member, right? And that's how everyone usually in a guild evaluates. That's how when I run guilds, that's how I evaluate. You don't really care whether that guy's like if someone's in 8 guilds, that really doesn't matter to you if the guy's doing all this amazing stuff for your guild, right?
That's true.
Like if he's running your website and uploading all these things and organizing all your people and all these things, and he's in 8 other guilds, you don't care, right? It's
Yeah.
the energy that he's putting forth to your guild. It's
That's
the
true.
how much he's participating and helping you, right? And that's how everyone evaluates their guild members. It's and everyone's part of multiple circles. Like you've got friends that you go have coffee with, or talk to on this game, or play some other games with, like, and those are all little social entities, right? And they might not be named guilds, but they are, right? They're
Right.
little groups that you talk to, and it's not like they all get jealous of each other. It's just that we've kind of branded. We put a little big old like X for fun a brand on each one of those guilds, right? And made them exclusive. But what ends up being at the end of the day, it's the value that each person brings to a guild that makes the guild matter. It's the collective value that everyone's adding to the social group that says, hey, this is why this is why I stay with this guild. Everyone is awesome here. I have a good time here. We're all a bunch of awesome people who kick ass in dungeons. We're all a bunch of awesome PvPers. I like hanging out with this guild because everyone here just, kicks ass, right? And that's what in the end of this is what it's all about, right? Like,
Right.
You're gonna hang out. You don't care if those other people are in other guilds because they keep coming back, they keep hanging out with you guys, and they keep logging in and beating up other people, right? Like, and teaching everyone and going over strategies and all those other things. But and at the end of the day, I think that is what makes a guild. That's what matters. And the social element is just the ability for everyone to kind of the freedom to do the things that they want to do. And I think it's always, like I said, it's up to the guilds to regulate and do the different things that they want to do. And if someone, if guilds want to have a really harsh regulation of people need to put X amount of hours into their guild and, do this much energy and we need to raid every night or we need to do this every night. And if you're not in, you're out of the guild. That's the guild that they're in. And if you want to be part of that energy, you want to be part of that energy. And if not, go play another guild. And so I think, you don't need a limit of one guild system to kind of regulate that because the guilds are going to naturally regulate it with time. And that's I think the philosophy that we're approaching this and seeing how that goes. And that's kind of our idea of how this system works. And we'll see how it all falls together. But I don't think that the entity of a guild is entirely defined by the fact that you're married to that one name, that one per account title, but I think it's more defined by the time and energy that you put into a social.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I had gotten to when I had first heard about the guild system, and maybe it's just because I'm an extreme pessimist over things that sound scary for something that I am so excited about, because it was like you're like you could be in any guild, and I was like, oh dear God, what? But then I kind of thought
Well,
about
yeah,
it, and I was
it's
like, it's actually not that bad, because you just made some very valid points of, it's based on their time vested into the guild, and that's a valuable player and someone
uh,
who, yeah,
you look at something like Facebook, right, with groups, right? Those aren't as strong of an entity as guilds in some ways, and in other ways they are so strong they've been used to create revolutions, right? Like, and so
yeah,
it's kind of all how you use the thing, right? It's just a social tool, and I think that's the what we're kind of doing is just giving people the tools to use the things how they want to use it, and it's just kind of up to the people to use it. And I think we're just trying to kind of remove a restriction that's there and see how the cards fall.
well, yeah, that's pretty fascinating. I guess we can go ahead and wrap up part 2 here, and you can go ahead and click the annotation on your screen for part 3, where we talk about some a little bit more personal things, not too personal, but anyways. Anyways, more personal questions, and yeah, thanks for watching or listening rather, and we'll
Yeah,
see you part 2 or 3.
thanks a lot.